Doctor Who came back with season 1 and it's had its ups and downs. It has turned out to be one of the most experimental seasons of Doctor Who yet, but is that its biggest problem? And that's something I wanted to discuss with you today. Unlike a lot of other channels that are talking about Doctor Who right now, like if you look up Doctor Who on YouTube, you will see some of the most hideous, verging on homophobic and racist thumbnails you'll ever see. So welcome to this channel where we're actually going to have a balanced discussion, and I am neither racist or homophobic. And we can actually have a constructive conversation about Doctor Who. Please subscribe. So let's break down the episodes we've had so far, because these episodes are so different from each other. Let's go. Space Babies. By far the weakest episode of the season so far. Without being punny, I found this episode incredibly childish. It's fun, lighthearted, and doesn't take itself too seriously. There are a few good moments, but I feel like it's ultimately very skippable on a rewatch, which is sad considering it's episode 1. The Devil's Cord. I thought this was a step in the right direction. It had a very compelling villain portrayed by Jinx Monsoon, even if the villain motivation wasn't all there. It was a fun story with a random dance number at the end. It was fine. The costumes were great. Boom. Now, without being punny, this was a very grounded story. The performances from both Millie and Ncuti shined. Actually, in particular, Ncuti, this was a Doctor-defining episode. This episode felt the most like Doctor Who so far, which is sad considering that this was the only episode not written by the showrunner, but written by a previous showrunner, Stephen Moffat. The final act of the story could have used a little bit of finessing, but it was a very entertaining 45 minutes of television. All set at one location. I don't know how they did that without making it boring, but it was very, very good. 73 Yards. Arguably one of the most experimental episodes of this season. The Doctor is only in the episode for like 5 minutes tops, but this is a fantastically directed episode. In my opinion, this is the best looking episode since Heaven Sent. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say. It really lent itself into the horror genre, giving itself that Twilight Zone kind of vibe. It was Millie's best performance to date, but the final act leaves a lot of things unanswered, and some people didn't like that, but regardless, it's still one of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who ever, I think. Dot and Bubble. This was supposed to be the bad one. I thought it was going to be a half-assed attempt at a Black Mirror episode. This was Doctor Who does Black Mirror, but the ending of this episode really stuck with me, so it was good. Rogue. This was Doctor Who does Bridgerton. It just felt right. It was a running down corridors type action with a few good twists in the story and an excellent romance arc. The Legend of Ruby Sunday. This episode is fine, it's just setting up the finale, but what I just described to you are the first 7 episodes of the same show, with horror and landmines and dance numbers and Black Mirror and Bridgerton and babies in space. The beauty of Doctor Who is that it can genre bend. One week you can have a murder mystery, the next you can have an Ocean's 11 type heist movie, the next you could be in the Wild West. The ability to go anywhere in time and space unlocks limitless story potential, but I also think that this might be part of its downfall. Not always, but for this series, I don't think it was necessarily the best move, especially with like the first 4 episodes, and I'll get into that. In October of 2022, it was announced that Disney Plus would be in charge of the streaming rights for Doctor Who around the world outside of the UK. And they also announced that this season would be called Season 1 instead of Series 14. This was going to be a clear start, a soft reboot, a soft launch again for Doctor Who. And with a clear start, you almost have to put your best foot forward and pitch the show to new audiences, kind of sell it, like, hey, this is Doctor Who, you should watch it. And so when they announced that the first 2 episodes of Doctor Who Season 1, which is Space Babies and The Devil's Cord, were going to premiere as a double billing, I was like, oh wow, these guys are serious. They're gonna throw 2 episodes at the general public, be like, hey, this is the new Doctor Who, enjoy. And then once those 2 episodes premiered, the reception was a bit odd. People seem to really like Ncuti and Millie, but I don't think it was the overwhelmingly positive response that they were hoping for or kind of banking on. And being honest, I don't think that Space Babies and The Devil's Cord are 2 episodes I would suggest to new viewers that are wanting to get into Doctor Who. Those episodes definitely show how fun Doctor Who can be, and I don't think they're bad by any means, but I just don't think it's a good jumping on point. Maybe I'm just old and out of touch, but I don't think they're the most kind of accurate representation as to what exactly Doctor Who is, and in my humble opinion, I think what we really needed instead of Space Babies was a new 11th Hour. The 11th Hour was the first episode after fan favourite Dr. David Tennant had left the show. The BBC even considered cancelling Doctor Who after David left because he was so popular and they thought there was no way the show could survive without him. Russell T Davies, the showrunner at the time who was never seen again, he had also left, which meant that there was a new showrunner and a new Doctor who was a relatively new, young, unknown actor at the time. They had one chance to prove to audiences that the show could survive without David Tennant, and they fucking crushed it. The 11th Hour, in my opinion and many others, is one of the best jumping on points for Doctor Who ever. It kind of sells you on the idea of the Doctor, it sells you on the idea of time travel, how whimsical the show can be, and how much heart the show has. I think it's just a perfect episode of Doctor Who, and Stephen Moffat and Matt Smith and everyone involved absolutely nailed it. And the sheer contrast between the 11th Hour and Space Babies, I mean, it's almost laughable. But as I keep saying, that's just my opinion. I recently put a tweet up asking, hey, how are you guys feeling about the season so far? And once again, there were some mixed reactions. Inconsistent and disjointed. One of the best. Waiting for the payoff before I judge too harshly, but right now I'm starved of good character development. Getting better, cautiously optimistic, heavy mixed bag. Thought Space Babies and The Devil's Cord were kind of middling, but Boom was great and 73 Yards was fantastic. Starts off a bit rough with Space Babies, but each episode is a big improvement from the last. Hopefully the upward trend continues. Very well pleased. Pretty poor in my opinion. I'd give From Christmas to 73 Yards a 6 out of 10 on average. It's definitely better than the Whittaker era because I can say at least I am eager to watch each new episode, unlike 13 where I literally didn't scare and skipped multiple weeks and then binged. Meh, I think it should be moved to CBBC. Saw the musical number, walked away. Now, look, Doctor Who being divisive isn't exactly a new headline. In fact, it's getting old at this point. Like, holy. Oh, I'm sorry, did you say holy? Because after those comments, I'll need a little bit of holy. Flawless segue. And just before I tell you how I think Doctor Who Season 1 could have gone, I am proud to announce that I have now partnered with Holy. Holy is the first real alternative to unhealthy soft and energy drinks, and they are so darn yummy. They have such a wide variety, like your iced teas, your energy, your hydration, but my favorite one by far is the strawberry kiwi one. I made this just before. It's very, very easy, and I'm not joking. It's incredible. It'll get me through the day. Honestly, they've been helping me very much whenever I get back from exercising. Holy have been nice enough to be like, try them, see if you can make them part of your daily routine. And I have. And I also use them when I'm doing like late night Doctor Who edits, if I need a bit of energy without all the other crap that's in the other drink. So Holy have been kind enough to not give me one, but two codes. You can use the code CRISPY5 for £5 off your first purchase on the website. And you can use the code CRISPY to get 10% off any purchase. And look, I don't usually do brand deals with like food and stuff, but these guys, the people at Holy were really sweet and the drinks were even more delicious. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm gonna finish this bad boy before we finish this video. So once again, please use the codes CRISPY and CRISPY5. Thank you very much, Holy, for partnering with us today. Cheers to you. Thank you, Crispy. As I was saying, I think that this season is one of the most divisive in recent memory. The last full season we got of Doctor Who was back in 2021 with Doctor Who Flux, which was one 6-part story spread across 6 weeks. And I think it's Whittaker's best story, and some could argue that that season was much more consistent than Doctor Who Season 1, but I'm not opening that can of worms. Bruh. I truly can imagine the pitch for this new Doctor Who Season 1 being like, let's just show them everything. Let's show everyone what Doctor Who can be. Let's give them musical numbers and Bridgerton and Black Mirror. Let's just throw everything at them and cast such a wide net. Which is fantastic, but when you cast such a wide net, there's going to be weeks where people aren't really interested in the show. And that's okay, and that's fine. I don't know why I'm making this video. I'm just very passionate about Doctor Who, and my little marketing brain has an idea as to how I think this season should have gone. And keep in mind, I'm just a guy from Australia in his mid-20s talking to a camera. The first episode obviously would have had to have been Space Babies. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about that. But instead of having The Devil's Cord as the second episode, I would have swapped it for Boom, happily. I think that Space Babies and Boom is a much better double billing. If that was the premiere, those 2 episodes, I think things could have played out a little bit differently. Because with Boom, a lot of people are saying, oh wow, this is an instant classic. There were headlines everywhere saying, oh my gosh, Boom is an instant classic. So Space Babies could have set up the story, what was going on, it's a bit of fun, but then Boom really could have sold audiences on Ncuti's Doctor and kept people hooked for longer. And Space Babies and Boom are 2 wildly different episodes, even thematically, from the direction, just from everything. But weirdly enough, I think that's more of an accurate representation of what Doctor Who is. Plus, to get really nitpicky, in The Devil's Cord, Ruby says that she has been traveling with the Doctor for 6 months, and it's only episode 2. But then the very next episode, which is Boom, Ruby sees an alien planet for the first time. So she's been traveling in the TARDIS for 6 months, and in that time, they've never been like, oh, do you want to check out an alien planet? So if you actually swapped these episodes, it would even make sense in universe. The BBC wouldn't have to do anything except swap the episodes, and it would make more sense in the series that they've already given us. But that's just nitpicky. That's just nitpicky. Hashtag crispy for showrunner. And I don't really want to talk about ratings, but something really weird happened with Boom, because the trend that usually happens with Doctor Who is that the viewerships will start off quite strong and then gradually dip off until the finale where they peak up a bit. But after Boom, viewership actually went up, and I can almost assure you that it was from word of mouth being like, oh wow, it's actually quite good. So I truly think if you made Boom part of the premiere, it would have been a good thing from the get-go. But with that all being said, what is Doctor Who's biggest problem? Some people out there might have you believe, oh, it's Ncuti, oh, it's Millie, oh, it's Russell T Davies, oh, it's how many episodes there are, oh, it's Russell T Davies. But I think part of the problem is that season 1 cast such a wide net. This season was so much more experimental than a lot of people were expecting, so perhaps it could have played better if they did something more refined, almost pulled back their punches a little bit just for season 1, and perhaps that would have landed more with general audiences. But in contrast, Doctor Who's biggest problem is definitely its biggest strength. This show has been going for 61 years. You never know what you are going to get with Doctor Who, and every season of Doctor Who could be described as a mixed bag, and that's fine. And this season was no different, so if you're new to Doctor Who, you might not enjoy every week, but I think the journey you will absolutely love. This show is incredible and continues to be incredible, so I'm having fun with season 1. If you don't like this week's episode, maybe you'll like next week's. That's pretty much how Doctor Who goes. So actually, I take it back. Doctor Who's biggest problem isn't the fact that it casts such a wide net. Doctor Who's biggest problem is Space Babies at the moment. It's not my favorite episode, okay? Like and subscribe.